Change is inevitable, but how you handle it determines whether you grow as a leader or you get left behind. Change is part of business, it's part of leadership, whether it's a shift in strategy, a major acquisition, or simply adapting to market demands. How you handle change as a leader defines your impact. Resisting change is an individual contributor mindset. It's reactive and limiting. Great leaders know that embracing change is not just necessary, it is the job description of a leader. So in this episode, I'm going to explore with you why change is an opportunity for growth. Not something to dread, but something to embrace. We're going to talk about the human challenge of change, how to shift your mindset from resistance to resilience, and practical strategies to guide your team through transitions with clarity and confidence. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by change or struggled to bring your team on board, this episode is for you. So grab a notebook, get comfortable, and let's dive into how you can thrive as a leader through every transition. The first thing I really want you to take away from this episode is that change is not a disruption. It's a chance to innovate, stay relevant, and grow your leadership capabilities. If you were a business that resisted change, you will very rapidly, as a business, become static and irrelevant. If the company doesn't change to evolve with the times, to adapt, to grow its product, to change a product as the needs of the users change, if the business stays still, it will rapidly become a non-entity. So here's the deal. As a leader, your job is to drive change. Driving change is the business's long-term success plan. Status quo is easy. That's what middle management do. If you want to be a great leader, you've got to be the person who leads change. So I want you to think about if you resist change or not. Leaders who resist change become static and irrelevant like the businesses they are leading. Leaders who resist change mean that they don't take their team with them. They sit with their team. Most humans don't like change after all. They sit in that mindset of, oh, we don't like this. Your team is going to pick up on your feelings if you don't like change. If you've got to change your mindset around change, your feelings will be heard. I'll tell you about a story of a client of mine who I've been working with for a while now. She came to me in January, told me she had been told, she's not on the ELT, but she was told by the ELT that there was a whole new strategy coming. And she came to me to say, I don't want to do this. And I said, okay, that's okay. Don't worry. What are we going to do about it? She's like, well, I want to go into the meeting and tell them what's wrong with it. And I said to her, the problem is this is going to happen. She went from resisting change and her focus being convincing the ELT, the executive leadership team, that change was a bad idea, to realizing she had to solve the problems that the change was going to bring. And when she did that, she went from it being exhausting to exciting and inspiring. She went from dreading telling her team about this change because it's yet another change. How many of you have experienced that, right? Yet another change. How my team are going to deal with this? She went from that mindset to, this is the best thing the company's ever done, literally in a coaching session with me. And I didn't say anything about the strategy. She didn't tell me the strategy. That wasn't the purpose of our coaching session. She went through a mindset shift of resisting change to embracing change. And she went into her next meeting with the executive leadership team to find out how to move that forward. And she went straight from that to a team meeting, and her team all got on board straight away because of her mindset. Your team has to see that you are embracing change. You have to coach your team to operate in the same way as you, excited about the change. You have to call them out on resisting it in the same way that I would call you out resisting it if that was you. That helps your team see that the resistance isn't helpful. It's going to happen around them. It helps your team move to progress instead of resenting it. Remember, you set the culture of your team. And if you allow people to be negative about change, including yourself, that is the culture you are setting. That doesn't mean you can't have valid discussion about change, nuanced insight into what could be done differently, But there is a place to just accept change and move forward. And there's a place to say, this is the right change at this time in the company. Change should be embraced. How you change is the bit that's up for discussion. But a mindset that just resists change and that you then give to your team is resisting change to the detriment of the company. So I want you to reframe change as your leadership job. Anybody else could run your team, project manage your team, make sure they deliver on the current requirements. A leader is delivering change. If you're not leading through change, you're not leading. If you are resenting or resisting change, this creates the mindset of stagnation and limits growth. You need to get away from, I don't like this situation, and go, what can I do about this situation? Okay, let's talk about the human condition of challenge of change. As humans, we are wired to resist change. It's uncomfortable. It's uncertain. As a leader, your role is to guide your team through this discomfort. Now, you are unusual because you are a leader. Most people are not leaders. Most people are individual contributors. Most people will lean into that fear of the unknown and loss of control that is change. Change means a change to the status quo. It can cause anxiety, confusion, and therefore resistance. We like to stay. We've evolved to stay put. It's warmer here. I know what to do. I know how to feed myself. It's not too scary. We even stay put in a situation which isn't good for us because we know, we know that this is a healthy, we can make it workplace. Even if that place over there is maybe greener on the other side, we don't know for certain, so we stay here. We resist change because of the fear of the unknown and the loss of control that will give us. As a leader, you have the ability to say, it's worth the risk. But you need to meet your team where they're at. This is the real hard bit. And why, as a leader, even if you're not a people leader in the sense of managing a big team, even if you're just a thought leader, you have to empathize with humans. Until we are working in companies which don't include people, we have to get our team to move focus. That means you need to, first of all, understand your resistance to change. 2, make sure that logically and rationally you're okay with moving through change, even if you're uncomfortable about it. 3, recognize your team's reaction to change, empathize with them. But then 4, maintain focus on that bigger picture and lead them along with you. That's a big ask when your body is going, stay here, right? I just told you, you will be having a human reaction that says, don't move. And yet for you to do your job and to stay relevant, for the business to stay relevant, you've got to move. But your team doesn't want to. You can't just make them move. So well, the first thing to do is to recognize that most of us hold on to that icy individual contributor thinking. The change is over there, right? We get away with not doing change very well, resisting it, complaining about it, going, are you sure that's a good idea to your boss? Pointing out all the problems. We get away with that for a very long time. But there comes a point in your career where this resistance to change is going to hold you back from your best work. It actually causes burnout. Because resisting change causes stress. You will see that you will be pushed into change or you will lose your job. Most people just end up going along with it. But while you're in the mindset of, I don't like this, it's not a good idea. Why are they doing this now? We need some time where we're not changing. I've heard all of those things from clients over the years. While you sit in that space, you are causing yourself stress. You're changing because you have to rather than because it's a good idea in your head. You're forcing yourself to do something while you sit in resistance. And when you sit in resistance and resentment, you create stress, which can lead to burnout. So the next thing I want you to write down is that resenting or resisting change is an individual contributor mindset. Leadership requires you to go, oh, change. That's necessary, exciting, important. How can I make this work? Rather than, I don't want this to work. These are all the problems. You've got to flip your mindset and say, how can I make this work? You will see the same problems, But you go from problems being a reason to not make change to problems being the thing you need to solve for, right? Just that flip of mindset that change is good and necessary is going to change the way you approach the problems you see. The next key change here in the way you're thinking, change in the way you think, change in the way you're doing, and changing. The next key thing is to consider how you're thinking about tasks. Individual contributors focus on the tasks of the change. Leaders focus on the team, the mission, the long-term vision of the change. They stop making change about you as a leader, as an individual. And again, talking with that client I was speaking to earlier this year, and she said she didn't want to do it. She was making it all about herself. She was like, I can see this is a terrible idea. This is going to mean this for my team. But it was really about her and her emotional state. She was making it mean something about herself and how they didn't hear her. She was very upset that she'd not been brought in to discuss the strategy. And it's common. It's very, very common. Now, don't get me wrong. I wish they had brought her in. But I pointed out to her right there on that session, the reason she wasn't brought into the room is because she resists change, and therefore she would have pushed back on the new strategy. By embracing change, she is now being invited to discuss future strategies because she has demonstrated to them that she is hey, let's solve these problems rather than, I don't like these problems, let's not do it. So, an IC focuses on how it's about them, how they aren't being heard, why are you not listening to me, why do you not include me? Here's the thing, it's not about you. It's about the market, the business, the profit, the ROI. It's never about you. So I want you to focus on the opportunity here, not the challenge to your ego, but what's possible, what's the vision telling you. And again, go to your team with that mindset. It's going to completely shift the way your team respond to you. Great leaders don't just survive change. They leverage change to build resilience of themselves, their team, their company. They foster collaboration during change. Change is a great way to build your network. It's a great way to say, hey, look, we can work together really, really well with peers. It's a great way to make sure your team are working really well because through change, it's going to challenge your team. If you can use the experience of change to glue your team together to drive success, you're going to have a stronger team because of change rather than in spite of it. So here's the things I want you to think of as you lead through change. The first is communicate clearly and often. As soon as it's public enough that change is happening, your team need to be informed and they need to be aligned. Now, the alignment isn't a once and done. It is over and over again. You might think you said this 10 times. They've heard it maybe half. As in, not once. They've heard a little bit of once, right? Your team need to hear, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. This is why it's important over and over again. They need to hear alignment across the company. They need to see that this change in strategy, this change in focus, whatever it is, aligns in all these ways so that they feel bought in. They need to see how they're contributing to this change. Even if they're not directly in it, you want everybody involved to see how they are contributing. Even if you're an executive assistant, your executive assistant is contributing to change by organizing key meetings. Make sure they know that, right? Everybody needs to be aligned. You have to communicate through change all the time. Every single meeting, whether it's your full team meeting, your staff meeting, one-on-ones, skip levels, whatever it is, your team has to be told over and over again, this is what we're focusing on. And then say, where are you at, right? Don't start a one-on-one with, give me an update. Start a one-on-one with, so we're focusing on this, where are you at? If you want them focused on that change, make sure that's top of the agenda every single time. The second thing to think of as you lead through change is setting the tone. I've already hinted at this here. How you show up changes everything. You need to be calm, but you need to be excited and calm. This is one I struggle with. People think that my excitement isn't calm, but you need to be calm and confident so your team feels secure, excited, passionate, and driven, but that this is inevitable, it's going to happen, and everybody's going to be just fine. If you are anxious about the change, they are going to pick up on it. If you disagree about the change, they are going to pick up on it. You need to be focused on solving problems, but confident that it's going to happen. And your team is going to pick up on that. But then you need to embrace empathy. As you lead your team through change, you've got to remember that you're the leader for a reason. You have listened to this podcast. You get that change is necessary. Change is the business. Change is leadership. Change is the job. Change is making sure everybody has a job in a year's time. Your team isn't thinking that way. Your team is thinking how you were thinking a year ago. Your team is going, I don't like this. Why can't I just do my job? Why are we getting rid of that product line? Why are we pivoting this strategy? Why are we acquiring this company? Why are we going through a merger? Your team doesn't like it. They are going to see the things that are uncomfortable. They're going to provide excuses for why things shouldn't be done. They are going to push back. Now, here's the thing. Even if you agree with them, you can't vocally agree with them. You've got to provide space for them and push them through their discomfort. Provide support and get them focused on the future. Acknowledge, but don't embrace, right? Hold space for discomfort, but don't let it become a culture of complaining. So acknowledge, empathize, support, but push forward. Do not allow your team to focus on what's wrong too long other than solving problems. They are not allowed to say, problem, not doing this. They are allowed to say, here's a problem, here's my solution. You're going to have to coach them in that. The next tip for leading through change is focusing on growth with your team. You need to know the opportunities that this change is bringing. This is going to help you get on board. But then you need to over-communicate that to your team, to the business. Make sure you have full business alignment. Every single bit of the business needs to be lined up. So you need to understand growth opportunity, how the change is going to bring that, what the time scale is, when it's going to land, why this is exciting, and you need to over-communicate that clearly and often. Then the final thing when you're leading through change is celebrations, right? You need to maintain morale, motivation during this transition. Whether this transition is a week or a year, morale is going to dip, particularly the longer ones, especially things like acquisitions, where quite often there's discussion about it quite early, and then it takes a year, 18 months to close. It's exhausting for your team. There's a lot of discomfort. Are we going to survive? What are our jobs going to be like? Blah, 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 right? You need to find things along the way to celebrate. Things like retention bonuses are great, but they are not sufficient. You need to find things to say, hey, look, we've just done this. Look what we've just achieved. You need to call out celebrations every single week, however small they are. That, more than any financial incentive, is going to keep your team focused on change and growing through this change, coming out the other side winning. It is such a small thing and yet so, so powerful. So I'm hoping at this point you're feeling a little bit more comfortable about change. And if nothing else, you have recognized change is inevitable. Change is the job description. It's an opportunity to grow, innovate, lead with impact, change the business. And if you're stuck in individual contributor thinking, you need to shift. You need to stop making this about you. You need to recognize this is the job of a leader, is to change. That even if you resist it, that's just a human reaction. That doesn't mean it's inevitable. As a leader, your role is to guide your team through the discomfort of change with empathy, clarity, purpose, communicate clearly and often. Remember that when you walk into the room, you are setting the tone and expectation, but that you can get them there by focusing on growth and what's possible. So I want you to go away and have a think about, what's your previous approach to change? Are you resisting? Do you leverage? Do you just see all the problems? Then I want you to look forward to an upcoming change, whether it's small or big. And I want you to ask yourself, what's your current mindset around it? And what's the opportunity for growth? Then I want you to reach out to someone. I want you to reach out to a coach, a mentor, a trusted peer to discuss how you can take what I've discussed today to lead more effectively through transitions. What are your blind spots? Where are you holding yourself up because you're sat in a certain mindset? Remember, leadership isn't about avoiding change. It's about thriving through it, I want you to embrace change as part of your journey. When you do that, you're going to grow as a leader and inspire your team to do the same.